When I left Jehovah's Witnesses, I thought the hardest part would be the doctrinal debates, and I was ready for that. I had all the scriptures, I had all the evidence, but that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was losing the people that I loved, because leaving the organization may ultimately be an intellectual decision, but the consequences are deeply personal and painful. It's something that most people outside of the organization don't understand, which is the emotional cost of leaving. Because when you walk away from the Watchtower, you don't just leave a religion, you leave an entire life behind. For me, it hit the hardest when I realized that there were really important people in my life who weren't ever going to talk to me again. Friends who I'd grown up with and we'd been in each other's wedding parties. Grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, people who had been in many of my happiest memories growing up. Almost overnight, it all changed. I remember one conversation in particular with my grandmother. I was always really close with her. My brother and I would stay with her for weekends when we were kids, and we stayed close growing up. I went in the door-to-door ministry with her regularly, and she even lived with my family for a few years. But when she found out that I was leaving the organization, that was it. She called me and told me plainly, this will be the last time that we speak to each other. Not because of anything I did to her, not because of some moral failure, but just because that's what the organization told her that she had to do. Now, people who know me know I'm not usually the most emotional guy, but that is a moment that doesn't leave you. Because it's not just a rejection, that's something you could probably get over. It's grief. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses grieve the loss of people who act as if they've died. And the cruel part is that witnesses have been convinced by the organization to think that they're doing the right thing by cutting you off. Because according to Jehovah's Witnesses, leaving the organization is the same as leaving God. And they've been taught to believe that it's loyalty to Jehovah and his organization to cut people out of their lives for good, even family. They've also been taught that it's the disfellowshipped person's fault, so they don't have to feel guilty about shunning you. They'll even feel justified in being angry with you, acting as if you're the one who has betrayed them. But it wasn't always this way. In 1920, the organization said, "We would not refuse to treat one as a brother because he did not believe the society is the Lord's channel. If others see it a different way, that is their privilege. There should be full liberty of conscience." But once unquestioning loyalty to the organization became the priority, everything changed. In the 1950s, they did a full 180 and started practicing complete and total shunning. So much so that they taught that witnesses should not even say hello or goodbye to a disfellowshipped person. In their words, a disfellowshipped person is not welcome in their midst, and they must avoid him. If that sounds extreme, it's because it is. But hey, at least the organization won't kill people who have left. That should be obvious. But apparently in 1952, it wasn't obvious enough. Because in a Watchtower answering a question from a reader, the organization said that we can take action against apostates only to a certain extent, and that the law of the land and God's law through Christ forbid us to kill apostates. I guess there must have been some confusion over that. So yeah, they won't kill you if you leave, but they'll act as if you died. And some might even revel in the idea of your eventual death. Here's what a governing body member had to say about it.
When it comes to God's enemies, finally, they're out of the way, especially these despicable apostate. Frankly, for friends of Jehovah God, how reassuring that they're finally going to be gone. All these despicable enemies that have just reproached Jehovah's name, destroyed, never ever to live again. How we look forward to these enemies of Jehovah, our enemies, vanishing like smoke. Here's what Jehovah's promising.
There's no way around it. Disfellowshipping is an awful practice that can literally destroy families. Because it means telling your family that they're no longer welcome in your home. It means having almost no contact whatsoever with disfellowshipped relatives, if at all possible. And get this, you're not even allowed to pray for a disfellowshipped person. Their publications say that scripturally it does not seem fitting and proper for a faithful Christian to pray for a disfellowshipped person. So the organization not only regulates how people treat their families, but it even tries to control their prayers. And listen, I already know what all the Jehovah's Witnesses in the comments will say. They'll say that the Bible teaches disfellowshipping, but according to their own organization, it doesn't. In a 1947 Awake magazine, the organization was criticizing the practice of excommunication. They said that the practice finds no support in these scriptures. In fact, it is altogether foreign to Bible teachings. And to be clear, a Jehovah's Witness disfellowshipping is far worse than excommunication. Excommunication typically means to lose one's membership rights in a church. An excommunicated person may no longer be able to participate in certain sacraments or rituals within the church. But shunning goes far beyond excommunication. To be shunned is to be denied personal interaction with church members, even when those social interactions are totally separate from the church. Still, Jehovah's Witnesses used to condemn even excommunication. They went so far as to call it a pagan practice. But you know what happened next. New light came along and everything changed. Somehow, they went from disfellowshipping having no support in the scriptures to questioning whether you could kill apostates just a few years later. So today, you don't just get excommunicated, you get completely shunned by your loved ones when you leave the organization. Now, there might be some witnesses who privately disagree with this, and they might even bend the rules in their own life. But let's be clear, this extreme form of shunning is exactly what a good witness is supposed to do. And it's not just silence when you leave. Unfortunately, even though they won't talk to you, the conversation about you continues. Because when someone leaves Jehovah's Witnesses, that's when the stories and rumors start spreading. They'll say you're selfish, proud, even mentally ill. And of course they do, because that's what their organization says too. So people don't ask what really happened. They fill in the blanks with whatever makes them feel better. I've seen it happen to others, and I've lived it myself. Things I never said, motives I never had, suddenly those become the reasons that I left. It's full-on character assassination disguised as some sort of spiritual protection. And it isolates you even further. Because now, even the few people who would have maybe considered reaching out to you feel like they can't, which means many former witnesses are left with no one. But as dark as those moments can be, here's the part that you don't see right away. When everything falls apart, when you lose everyone you thought you needed, that's when you finally learn to rely on God fully. You start realizing that faith isn't about pleasing an institution. It's about truth. And when you've been conditioned your whole life to measure your faith by obedience to the organization's version of truth, that realization changes everything. And for the first time, you can breathe. You can ask questions, wrestle with doubts. That's okay. God's not going to disown you. For me, faith stopped feeling like a tightrope that I had to walk so carefully, and it started to feel like something that I could test, confirm, and build real conviction in. The loneliness of leaving Jehovah's Witnesses is real, but so is the freedom. And it's a freedom that most Jehovah's Witnesses have never experienced before. I certainly never did. If you've never been a Jehovah's Witness, it's hard to grasp how total the system is. Every relationship, every decision, it's all filtered through that world. So when you leave, you're not just walking away from doctrine, you're stepping out of an entire identity. But I'll tell you this, I'd rather walk alone in truth than stay bound to a system that you know isn't right. Your relationships with your friends, your siblings, your parents, it shouldn't be contingent on doing exactly what they want you to do. That'd be like living your entire life as if a gun was being held to your head. Do as you're told, and the trigger never gets pulled. But those aren't the kinds of relationships I want in my life. And listen, the truth will cost you something, but living a lie will cost you everything. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. It might sound cheesy, but you're not alone. You're also not crazy, evil, or beyond hope like the organization might try to make you feel. I'll keep unpacking what this journey really looks like, from the pain to the healing and to the freedom that comes on the other side. So if you haven't already, subscribe and join me for the next video. And thanks for watching. God bless.